What is your favorite cartoon pilot? Mine's Launchpad. Ha! Before a show can get picked up, it needs a pilot. A short episode showing off what the show would be like. In animation, it'll usually have different animation than the finished show, maybe different voice actors. Overall, it seems like something you shouldn't have seen. Many of them are lost, usually held on by their creators either out of embarrassment or legal reasons. Occasionally though, a few come to light. So I want to overlook a handful and see what changed, why, and also because it's cool, okay, I have 25 of these, okay, shut up. I will say I wrote this a couple months ago, but who cares? Nothing big has happened. It's not like, I don't know, 4 pilots are leaking its entirety, meaning I need to rewrite this entire video. No better place to start than SpongeBob. I'm sure most people are aware of the first episode, Help Wanted, but SpongeBob is going to the Krusty Krab, asking for a job, getting denied because Squidward doesn't want him there, then coming back and serving the sudden wave of customers and getting the job. The pilot we surfaced last year is mostly the same, but also off. You can tell Hillenberg was mostly finding his footing and didn't have the budget of Nick yet, as things feel off, like the shading of most characters and the more, for lack of a better term, realistic backgrounds instead of the more cartoony blending the show has. The big thing though is SpongeBob's voice. He's still voiced by Tom Kenny, but he was definitely trying to find the right voice for him. But it sounds, I'm gonna use this word a lot, off.
The finest eating establishment ever established for eating.
Plot-wise though, it's just the episode you know. There's some minor changes like lack of bubble transition, and a quick credit roll before SpongeBob enters the Krusty Krab. But it's still the same plot. He still becomes a Goomba. Glad that was always there. The episode is mostly the same, for what we have at least. But it's still just off enough that's interesting. This time very well might have the most iconic pilot of all time. The most glaring thing, first of all, is here at Nickelodeon. On their random cartoon show, which aired pilots. It lost the fanboy Chum Chum, which it's easy to mock that, but I get it. Every time took a very long time to develop in the show we know now. Even season 1 is very similar to the rest of the series, while Fanboy immediately stands out thanks to being CG. As for this show, well, it's kind of the best way to do a pilot. It crams everything about the show into a few minutes without feeling rushed. It sets up a lot of things, like the different worlds of the show, Jake and Randy Corn's relationship, and some of the catchphrases. It ends with Finn realizing he might have a crush on Princess Bubblegum, which, Finn, I don't know how to tell you this. It just makes you really happy. It sets up the world perfectly. Outside of the Mario Paint looking visuals, the only major change is the cast. John DiMaggio is the only one who kept the actual show. Paige Moss voices Bubblegum instead of Hidden Walsh. Ice King is voiced by John Krasinski instead of Tom Kenny. And Randy Corn is Dee Bradley Baker instead of Nikki Yang. Also, she talks in gibberish instead of Korean. And then there's my favorite one, Finn. Well, first off, he's named Penn here, after creator Pendleton Ward. But the really funny thing is his actor. In the actual show, he's played by Jeremy Shada. Who is him in the pilot? Zach Shada. Jeremy's brother. Well, that must be awkward. Sorry, bro, I kind of took away the most iconic and biggest character in CN's history away from you. Sucks to suck. Yeah, great pilot. You can definitely see why this guy's so popular, even after getting passed off. You know what? Let's actually look at Fanboy Chum Chum. This very well might be the most different from the final product of all these. It always confused me why he was even named Fanboy. He doesn't do anything stereotypically fanboy-y. But this is him and Chum Chum being massive fans of the superhero, who is more or less replaced by Antarctica. Not only that, Lenny is white instead of black. Due to being voiced by Jeff Bennett here, he's voiced by Wyatt Cenac in the show. Not only voice had to change. Here, Chum Chum is Nancy Cartwright, aka Bart Simpson, while in the show, he's Nika Futterman. Plus, Fanboy has a white costume instead of a green one. Barry is a giant monster and a villain instead of the small, somewhat friendly little goblin. 2D animation was used for the first scene for the commercial, and what might be the biggest change, the animation. Overall, it's the same, but I've noticed a lot of actually really funnily animated segments, like the really janky, almost source filmmaker-y way Barry moves. But still, I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. Besides the point of 3D being more gripping than 2D, I think it actually makes complete sense why they would go with this over Adventure Time. And hey, since we're discussing next show's made a debut potential new series, there's Oh Yeah Cartoons, a series from the late 90s with the same purpose random cartoons. 3 notable shows spawned from this, the biggest one definitely being Fairy Odd Parents. There's basically an entire mini-season for this show before the actual thing. But since that's cheating, here's the first episode only. While the basic premise is the exact same, the big difference seems to be the characters. They're a lot different from what you may know. Admittedly though, Fop characters did change a lot through the course of the show anyways, so it's understandable. For example, Timmy is a lot more sarcastic and dry than he is in the show. He's voiced by Mary Kay Bergman, best known for Daphne, some Scooby-Doo media, and most female South Park characters, before he was swapped to Tara Strong after her unfortunate passing. Timmy's parents' faces are never shown fully, which is kind of fun to imagine if they stuck by that, considering how important they become as the show goes on. Vicky is less of Status' baby sister, later turned full villain as she is in the show, and now just kind of a jerkish average teenage girl. She also has a brother instead of a sister. Wonder if he'd also be the same for Timmy. He has precedent.
Those dreams where Timmy saves me again! But where is your white horse?
The biggest change is Cosmo. Instead of the absolute dummy idiot we know, he's actually a lot more reserved. while still voiced by Darren Norris, has a voice closer to a used car salesman than his high-pitched voice. He and Wanda also have a very loving relationship, which did stick for the show for most of the series until it really hit seasonal rot. Vicky gets tortured immediately after Timmy gets his fairies, and at the end, it sets up that she plans to find out what's up with all these weird things, which might mean that this part of her is eventually dropped and given to Crocker, who doesn't appear at all the pilot season. Also, Timmy's head looks stupid here. That leads us to the next of the shows that debuted on Oh Yeah, Chalk Zone. I couldn't find the pilot. That leads us to Teenage Robot. The pilot is very in line with the final project, plot-wise. Jenny is a robot made to save the world by Nora Wakeman. She wants to be a normal teen, eventually she bonds with 2 kids, but has to go save the day. Also, it set up the side plot of her wanting to be seen as a normal teen and go by Jenny instead of XJ9. Voice actor-wise, Jenny, Nora, and Tucker all have the same voices. Brad is instead voiced by a woman. It's pretty noticeable and distracting, and I think swapping was a good call. Oh, and the animation. Most pilots have that. It's actually really refined and nice looking, even if it leans closer to the 90s CNN art style rather than the Art Deco look of the final project. The character designs also have a massive shift. Brad has a different shirt and his hair is down instead of pointed up. Tucker's also wearing different clothes, including a hat. Nora has noticeably paler skin around her head, and Jenny's just uncanny. And silhouette looks great, but man, the eyes in the mouth, it looks like freaking annoying orange. It's so gross. How iconic Jenny's design is now, these adjustments to her face, outside making her blues much lighter, were definitely a good call. And to finish up Nick for a bit, Avatar's entire unaired pilot was put onto YouTube by Nick. Inglorious, definitely not made for widescreen pixelated mess quality. I think this is great because you can so clearly see the spirit Avatar here, but things are just slightly different. The animation is more or less spot on, the pilot nails the mix of humor and story the show has, Appa runs like this, Aang's crushing guitar is first touch on here, but for changes, the main 3 all have something. For Aang, it's his voice. He's voiced by Mr. Musso, who know from some Disney sitcoms, Dream Information Ferb, or driving under the influence. I assume his voice is getting too deep and I swapped it out. Guitar personality-wise is mostly the same, but name-wise, she's called Kaya here. The name was changed due to a game character having that name, but her mom, and later Guitar's daughter, were both named Kaya as a nod. Sokka, on the other hand, is very different. He's much more of a straight man and voice for reason. This change came from his actor being a comedian, heavily inspired by Jim Carrey, so this was later added to his character, which is definitely for the best. Also, Aang throws Zuko into a wall. Gumball's pilot at first seems normal. Upon further inspection, there's a few interesting things about it. First of all, we all know Gumball has a very unique art style, as in, he doesn't have an art style. But this one has Gumball and Darwin looking even more different than the usual, with more square-looking designs. The plot is Gumball devises a Rube Goldberg-style scheme to launch himself out of school, but ends up backfiring. Or should I say backside firing? Kill me. Weirdly, I don't think this is a plot in any official episode, unless I'm misremembering. I feel like something that would happen considering their personalities, but no. For more changes though, there's a few minor things. Minor character Terry is a boy here, while she's female in the show. Most of the really varied character designs are still varied here, as they were in the show, which is impressive. The real noticeable thing is Gumball's voice. He and Darwin has had several voice actors throughout the show, usually changing every season. And this is no different. But his voice is familiar, see if you can pick it up.
Okay, buddy, today's the day we break out of school. As you can see, I've simplified the plan.
Yep, that's Nicky Jones, aka Chowder. With how often people say Gumball is a Chowder clone, or at least majorly inspired by it, it's kind of funny to imagine a universe where Gumball and Chowder have the exact same voice. Also, at some points, a beta version of the theme played. Yeah, I like this one. It's cute and set up the show well. 3D Darwin crawled from the pits of Underworld, though. I hate that guy. The pilot of the Steven universe feels like a decomposite of multiple real episodes. It starts with Steven wishing he could do missions with Jens, meets with and verbally assassinates Lars.
Exactly a hot girl, Steven.
Well, if I was, I wouldn't be talking to you.
Gets trapped in a time loop for all eternity, and then they all fight a skull. Normal Tuesday. Art is a lot like the Teenage Robot one, where it feels slightly off and lower budget compared to the final show. All the actors are the same, and Steven, Amethyst, Lars, and Sadie all look the same, but Garnet has her hair down, honestly good look for her, alongside being generally slimmer and having pointier shoulder pads. But Pearl scares me. Anyways, Steven saves the day. And then he doesn't. Gravity Falls had his entire pilot episode posted by Hal Church for the show's anniversary. It more or less tells the normal plot for the first episode with a few minor changes. Most notably is of course the animation, which has a more, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but it reminds me of newspaper clippings. Maybe because it matches the brighter animation, usually of the characters, and a lot of weird stock images. It reminds me a lot of both Flapjack and Fishhooks. Both shows that Adam Kurth worked on before making this. Speaking of his other work, this album clock sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Hoo-hoo! Hoo-hoo! You wanna hear my worst nightmare?
The skin also just looks so off. But you can tell it's Stan. It feels like a Doodle Bob version of him. Also, the journal is called this. Presumably a placeholder, seeing as it's still very clearly made for kids. Again, it was basically the same plot of the original, but cut down to 12 minutes, so it's missing a few things. Susie and Wendy aren't here at all. Dipper always had his iconic pine tree hat instead of getting it right at the end. The gnomes had an elder after Justin Roiland, and Dipper beats them all by solving a riddle. Once he does this, all the gnomes turn to stone, the elder taking a very familiar pose. And it starts with the kids running to a giant monster. We never actually see the giant monster like we do in the actual episode. While the humor is super on point, both the jokes that made it in and the ones that didn't, made it super easy to understand why it was picked up. Notably, the setup here is completely episodic. Dipper had the book to begin with instead of finding it in the woods, and the scene with Stan entering behind the vending machine is cut too. I assume those are always planned, just not included in the pilot due to it being unnecessary for the pitch. 3 pilots have surfaced for Wanderer Over Yonder. The first one, this mini trailer shown at Comic-Con 2012, displayed here in glorious, probably illegal phone quality. So sadly, a lot of this is Mike Wazowski by people in front of the guy recording, but the basic gist is Wanderer and Sylvia are just kind of running from watchdogs before they just kind of let them fall to their death. Nice. The other is animatic of the first episode. Again, mostly the same as the original, at least at the start. Instead of Hater just leaving after Wanderer annoys him, he later tries to attack the town again before Wanderer and Sylvia outsmart him. Every character voiced by Craig McCracken, at points. Sometimes Jack McBrayer and Tom Kenny do voice Wanderer and Peepers. Sylvia constantly swaps between highly detailed and a scribble, and Wanderer has a hyper-detailed face on a literal stick. Also, I had to re-listen to this scene several times to make sure Sylvia wasn't calling Hater the F-word.
Is the most evil jerk-faced scumbucket in...
Also, it looks like Wanderer flips us off at the end. I'm gonna put, at least before I wrote this, I promise, and if not adding onto the script at the end, in color, but mostly the same plot as before. The voices are the same, but Keith Ferguson and April Rinchel sound slightly deeper than the final version. Also, Wanderer is a Muppet, Hater is more skull-like, and Sylvia is Sabula. It's got even more really great jokes, shockingly good 3D moments for a pilot, and I think that make Hater seem really scary before realizing he's a goober. Candy has a very interesting development cycle. Originally, the show was going to be focused on a kid named Kenny and his pet chimpanzee, where the show would be called Kenny and the Chimp, recurring characters with the kid next door. A group of secret agents protecting childhood. Cartoon Network saw more potential in these agents, and asked creator Mr. Roborton to instead develop them to the main characters. We did get a pilot for both series though, both being available on streaming alongside the actual show. For Kenny, the episode is pretty simple, about Kenny going to someone's house, finding a villain trying to make a new disease, and attempting to stop them. Now to stay there, and yeah, the Candy are inherently much more interesting. But Kenny is of course voiced by Tom Kenny, who's also in the running to play number 1 before Benjamin Diskin got the role. The villain is Professor at XXL, who unlike Kenny and Chippy, actually made it to the final show. He's a recurring villain who's constantly giving himself new animal parts and attempts to make the best snow cone. It makes complete sense, guys. After that we have the Candy pilot No P in the Ool. Notably, the only episode of the show to not have the title start with Operation and end with an acronym. The episode is something I could easily see in the show. The kids want to go swimming in a big pool, 2 adults block them out, and now they have to find a way in. It's really fun and mixes the childlike wonder and ridiculous creations we know for the series quite nicely. The villains, Mr. Wick and Mr. Fib, also carried on to the final show, mostly being henchmen for other villains. Overall, 2 very fun pilots that are both fun, though clearly Candy was the right choice. Amphibia's pilot might be the most different one here. It's only a minute and a half, you can still clearly tell this is Amphibia, but still, there's a few changes. The art style is still quite high quality, but the look is overall much more greenish yellow in the final product. I also noticed water is a lot more prevalent, being between a lot of the homes, when usually it's only in secluded areas. The most obvious thing is the name of both the world and the show is Amphibiland. It was changed since the Netflix show Kulapari had its world named that. Honestly, Amphibia is a much catchier title, good call. And it's basically the same from what we can see in terms of personality. Design-wise, she now has both of her shoes. Thank God she lost one of those. The show would have sucked if she didn't. Hal Pup looks a lot rounder, and seems to be the secret keeper of lore of the world, rather than the kind-hearted old man of the show. Bill Farmer still voices him here, but he also voices Grime. It's hard to tell since there's an effect on his voice. Some smaller things, Bessie's a slug instead of a snail, and you can tell Sasha and Marcy were super early in development. Why is Marcy a dog character? Sprig is definitely the most different. Billy looks like more background character, rather than his more distinct final look, like his trademark gargles, and his voice.
Oh, yeah! Not ready! Not ready!
I want to live in the world where everything is the exact same, but Sprig now sounds like Flapjack. Honestly, it's really funny that Grime design is more finalized than Sprig's. Also, no Polly, weirdly. The most interesting thing here is some scenes reused for the intro, though obviously redrawn. It clearly was not made for the intro, as the song wasn't used here. Instead, Rather Be by Clean Bandit is a backing track. That is certainly a choice, alright. This is the same show that had a character commit suicide between the Lean On Me. This is really not a shock. The one that leaked is mostly a segmented version of the few final episodes. Mostly the first one. The same actors from the other returned, but now Polly exists. Before I mentioned it, but Hop Pop sounds is different. He's also a lot more grumpy and rude than he was in the show. I wish I had the Caterpillars in the final show. Also, I should have kept that snails can breathe fire. It would have made Bessie so much more interesting. I sure do love our main characters playing with corpses. This sets up the major thing of animalizing her friends aren't really good to her, which really wasn't touched on until Sasha got formally introduced. This leak also revealed a different version of the first pilot, with some added scenes, including Polly this time, and Sasha having some weird powers.
Trust me, Mrs. Croker. Animals love me. Oh man, he looks upset.
While it might be the most obscure show here, Mega FLR's pilot is super interesting. Titled Lowbrow here, the pilot episode is named Test Drive, which is just absolutely perfect name. We went from the most changed to the most similar. Even in visuals, this could be easily mistaken for a finished episode, alongside the main characters being more or less identical in personality to their final selves. The only real difference are Coop and Kira have much smaller eyes. The humor is super on point, for what I can hear. The only upload of this has, for some reason, replaced the audio halfway through. But it's up to have us hear all the voices. Coop, Jamie, and Kiva all have the same voice actor, but Gorath, he's, well... Okay, in the show he's voiced by Clancy Brown. Makes sense. In this, he's, of all people, Mick Foley. Yes, WWE wrestler Mick Foley. Why? This is Mick's first ever voice role. Even nowadays, he rarely ever voice acts, besides for The Boulder and Avatar, and a few WWE games. Like, he does a good job, but like, he only has one line. Why get a notable celebrity for this? Maybe they intended to have Mick voice him in the final show, and certain conflicts came up, but hey, a fun pilot for a fun show. If I wanted to focus on mostly Western shows, I couldn't help but throw Kirby in. The Kirby anime is very divisive, but it could have been even more so. A very notable thing in the show is that Kirby doesn't talk at all besides saying Poyo. Here, no one talks at all. Also, like the original series, it's a mix of 2D and 3D, but mostly 3D for the characters, and, it doesn't look good. Anyways, a wildly different Tiff meets Kirby. Kirby gets thrown around by a Wii cursor, until will this DD decides to shoot them with an actual gun! The next minute is DD trying to kill Kirby for the goal of flying, I guess. Until Kirby gives DD his wiener, now they're friends. No good deed goes unpunished though, as monsters are immediately summoned, though Kirby immediately kills them all. The monsters are all enemies from the game, being Captain Stitch, a famously invulnerable enemy who Kirby just immediately inhales, Master Green, Ifriti, Habuki, Sweet Stuff, and Mr. Pumpkin, who all don't appear in the show, Ice Dragon and Blocky, who do appear, but they're much less accurate than they were in the pilot, and easily the weirdest one, Meta Knight. In the games, Meta is a major recurring character who was, at this point, either a secret ally to Kirby who is constantly testing him, or independent threat attempting to take over Dreamland. In this, he's just another monster. Really weird when he's basically Kirby's mentor in the show proper. Notably, he has his wings here, something he never gets in the series. Also, his mask turns upside down when he frowns. Also, Dark Matter, the main villain of the games, makes a brief cameo here. He dies not even getting a fraction of a frick. Again, only appearance in the show. Then a toothless nightmare kills them. But it's all just a dream, so hypothetically, you would say this is canon. Similar to Oh Yeah cartoons or random cartoons, CNN had What a Cartoon, a show that aired pilots of potential shows CNN could make. Some of these include Johnny Bravo, Carmel Chicken, Dexter's Lab, and the first of the two I want to discuss, Powerpuff Girls. Or this. Yes, really. Instead of Chemical X, the Professor adds a can of whoop butt, war would be so much easier if I swore, into a concoction, making the girls. Also, the Professor is literally just an older version of Dexter. 3 pilot episodes of this exist. First have the Amoeba Boys as an actual threat? Is that like legal? The second one is very interesting. It's the first appearance of a ton of notable characters in the show. Fuzzy, who has the same appearance and voice, but is now a genuine threat instead of just some guy who wants to be left alone. Miss Keen, who now has Slender Man limbs, and the Mayor, who not only looks super different, but is now voiced by Tom Kenny, instead of Jim Cummings, just like Fuzzy. Speaking of Tom, actually, he's not the narrator either, which just feels weird. Any change in these, this is the most jarring. Oh, and then they eat Fuzzy alive. The final one, Cram 101, has the Amoeba Boys again? Really? Were they planned to be the main villains? They're much closer to the final version, though, being losers who can't do anything right, leading instead to the girls who are out being from, which, like, genuinely hilarious idea. Me telling my mom I threw up right in the middle of the night. The other one I want to discuss is Courage, because hi, I'm Stripe, nice to meet you. The short is called Shade from Outer Space. While left later than the final show, it's mostly a normal Courage episode. Courage chilling with his family, are scared by this really cute rat, and then Eustace, kind of funny the mask didn't change at all in part of the show. This causes Courage to go outside, where he sees this chicken spaceship. Me when I see massive bazoingas. Related, whenever my friends are being horny or something they very much shouldn't be horny for, which being me is everything, I use this scene of Eustace to mock them. Notably, every character is voiced by Howard Kaufman, who is a radio personality, and despite voicing every character in the pilot, never appears in the show proper. One of the few things that aren't carried on actually. The humor is still the same, Courage has shape-shifting powers. Eustace still dies. It's a normal Courage episode. It's also actually canon. This chicken has 2 episodes in the actual show. One where he tries to get revenge, another with his son. Also, in this, he killed all Muriel's chickens. Which could explain why we never see any in the actual show. One thing they reuse though is that the chicken challenges Courage to many games before just flat out trying to kill him. Which is also Katz's gimmick. Also, a few fun Easter eggs. All the frame images are of staff who worked on the short, besides this one, a naked drawing of creator John R. Gilworth. Harold is a super interesting case. The plot itself isn't that interesting though. It's a clear blueprint for a Harold episode. Arnold accidentally hurts Harold, says he's going to clobber him. Arnold finds a way around it. A lot of the initial voice actors for the kids are the same here. Everyone still has their deformed heads. The clothes everyone wears, though, are different. Yet weirdly, the Arnold in Helga's Logit is a lot more accurate to the final design than how he looks here. That's what sets up Helga's crush in Brainy Scraping. Also, there's no intro, but Helga's
Hey, Arnold!
and
Move it, football head!
lines seem to be directly taken from this. It also inspired this scene where all dogs Abner runs out. What's more interesting though is what predates this short. 3 stop-motion Arnold shorts by creator Craig Bartlett. All was ran on Sesame Street. These shorts all have the premise of Arnold doing something boring, while he imagined doing something more interesting. They all have an extremely flat look to them, but only one scene from Arnold isn't literally paper. Also, none of the adults have their faces shown, including Arnold's parents, which is supposed to be a big twist in the show. 2 of his classmates are also Helga and Harold. It's really simple and divorced from a lot of the show's final product, but it's also really cool to see how something like this will eventually morph into something like this. Rugrats' first episode is about a toilet. What do you want from me? Grandpa Lou is like ridiculously well animated. Why is he like this? Unlike Stu, who looks like he's held together with toothpicks. Actually, I figured that this is one of the rare pilots that looks better than the final show, at least at points. I appreciate they have the patented mouth camera. This wouldn't be Rugrats without the mouth camera. Notably, while Phil and Lilo here, Chucky and Angelica are not. Notably, while Dee Dee is here, the ability to animate her correctly is not. Also, it ended with Spike and Tommy vibing as his parents scream about how much they hate each other. Relatable! Owl House's pilot is quite short, but it has a few things to pull from it. Design and voice differences. Those are my favorites, so you can probably tell. Seems to be if you have the same voice actor, you have a different design, and vice versa. Luz and King have the same actors, but Luz has a striped shirt, and King has high as balls. Also, we really lean into the Cubone comparisons here. His voice, also loud as Hirsch, is lower pitched and less Bill Ciphery. Ida and Willow look the same, but they have voice actors that I can't seem to find. Also, Willow is named Paulina here, as in Pollen. You're cute. I like it. There's also this dude, who might be Hunter? You know, the show would have been much better if Luz was really just 16 frogs. This sets the tone up pretty well, but I do question the lack of Hootie at all. You know, the owl of the house. Weird. The newly leaked one is a full-length episode. It has the basic skeleton of episode 1, with a lot of little changes. Luz is still bullied in school thanks to her story with Azura, but instead, a student, Amity actually, defends her. I know a lot of people love this because early Lumity, but honestly, I think her going to summer camp works much better. It explains why she's gone, and it helps the obvious question of why people don't look for her. Plus we see her relationship with her mom. Plus, we excluded from this version, and without her, we lose a lot of the best moments from the show. She then solo describes Ida and her fedora.jpg, where they all go to the house. It looks much more magical and musical than the final one. I kind of prefer this one. They can still go to find King's crown, but not only can Ida willingly become an owl, the owl curse is definitely a better call, to be honest. It adds so much to her character. But instead of the guard, they instead infiltrate the school to steal from the principal, Lilith. This could have been a cool idea, but considering that current Lilith and Lilith's film is Trumbull, I am very glad they changed this. They found another hat.png. Lilith reveals she's a huge fan of Sonic Unleashed. You get a brief cameo for Willow and Gus, and then they banish Monster Lilith before returning to the house, and reveal that the Emperor knows what they have Luz. Definitely a fun pilot, but I really prefer the final project. As great as early Lumity could be, I think it makes more sense to show Luz completely alone prior to meeting Ida to really show how low she is. Plus again, a life without Lilith eventually becoming Strunkly is not a life I want to live. Also, if you do really wish this was a pilot solely for early Lumity, remember the show has shortened basically the second the ship was confirmed canon. So if this really was the first episode, it would not make it to season 2. Also, basically everyone here besides Luz, Ida, Amity, and Lilith are voiced by Alice Hirsch. Wow, really is a Gravity Falls TV show, Chester. It's really fun to look back at old Family Guy, honestly. The start of the show is really quaint compared to the insanity and not so goodness of the modern series. Back when he truly was a Family Guy. Now it was just violence and movies and sex on TV. Pod is a good example. Super down to earth. Set but dynamic all his characters well. Also, it was done entirely by Seth himself. I like that Lois and Meg are super different, but Chris is the same. You can't improve perfection. Also, Stewie is a Mario brother. This joke genuinely really got me. I love this so much.
Put out your thermostat.
Man, how does he always know?
Brain implant, Meg. Every father's got one. Tells you when the children are messing with the dial.
Hey, Peter, my thing went off. Your thermostat okay?
Heck, they even set cutaway gags. Like this one with a priest that sounds way too much like Kermit the Frog.
With festering boils all over his body.
Also, there's two characters that aren't exactly Joe and Quagmire, but they're Joe and Quagmire. The evil Bizarro Joe and Quagmire. Bizarre Joe. It also gives us the most horrific sight. Front-facing Family Guy death pose.
I'm sorry, honey. Are you mad?
No, I'm just very disappointed.
Star vs. Pilot starts on a, you're probably wondering how I got in this mess, joke. I wish I was a magical creature. So that way Star could kill me. Actually, the title card ended with Star killing every character on the show. Wow, they really were planning ahead. This is a mix of a few episodes. Most notably the first one introducing Star in this world, and the one where the teacher gets turned into a troll. Everyone has one or two major changes here. Star is wearing a different outfit. Marco has blue eyes, and his name is Soul here. His parents look completely different, as do Star's parents. Tom has red skin and a longer face, Buff Frog has a butt chin, and Ludo is actually the exact same. You can't prove perfection. This is actually super similar to the actual show, but you now get to discuss despite being one of the longer ones. The only thing of note is complete lack of music at all in this. It makes a lot of things, especially this fight, super awkward.
I'm obligated to warn you that I'm a green belt with a stripe.
The only notable change is Marco is a lot more reluctant to have Star overall, which while it could be fun to show him trying to warm up to her, it is a lot of them butting heads, so I'm fine with it. Over the Garden Wall very well might have the most interesting development cycle of any cartoon. It went through many different phases, including one having the main villain, the Beast, being a guide through the afterlife and an ally rather than basically Satan. The full pilot, though, Tome of the Unknown, had a lot of interesting details. For one, animation voice-wise, it's basically the same. The only change is Beatrice is voiced by Natasha Legario instead of Melanie Leninsky. It's also far more sarcastic and rude than she is in the final show. The most obvious change, though, is the entire plot of the show. In the final product, it's to get back home. In this is to find the Tome of the Unknown, a book of all known things, which, bad name for a thing that contains everything known to have unknown in the name. To find this book, you use a vehicle of the Vegetable Man, which doesn't appear in the show, but this really fits the vibe well. A small group of weird, strange beings facing their small, weird, quaint problems. It's not the same, but it does remind me of the village of Pumpkinhead creatures from that one episode. It's clear why this got picked up, even after all the retools, though. What other thing has this depressed cat, the world's scariest birds, or this joyous little frog full of life? As discussed in the intro, it's very common for pilots to be lost. I could make an entire video on lost pilots, but there's one I have to discuss now. Because it has Aaron Willie, the Flapjack pilot is split into two. One is mostly found, just in terrible audio quality. It's about Flapjack making an entire ship out of Knuckles' toenails. Yep, it's a Flapjack episode, alright. Good to know the creepy mixed media is always there. The other one is much better, though, because it features Aaron Willie. Knuckles tells Flapjack that the only way he can be a true adventurer is to beat Willie in arm wrestling competition. Weird hard cut to him failing to do so, until he offers friendship, which Willie accepts. Flapjack then beats him by cheating. I assume this is lost through the graphic, horrific scene of really brutally tearing apart Flapjack. This is notably canon, as in the later episode brings up Flapjack beating Willie in an arm wrestling match. But sadly, I doubt we'll ever get the full video. I mean, we did get some storyboards though, including this. And like, do we really need anything else besides it? Infinity Dream was parked in the station for a really long time before departure, being relit back in 2015. It's pilot dropping on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel back in 2016, and the show only coming out in 2019. Pilot's mostly a shortened version of the third episode. It does briefly show a train car that's never show the proper show though. The fart car. We could have had it all. We could have had it all! It's weird. Basically everything looks exactly like the final show, except Tulip, who's much paler, has rounder glasses, and a darker color scheme. It does keep all the great dog jokes from the after episode though.
Please excuse us. We just get very excited when someone new comes through the door.
This is clearly why the show is greenlit. Oh, and the eraser on Tulip's pencil is a frog from Garden Wall. I'm being as vague as possible here, since everyone should go watch Infinity Train. But, oh yeah, fun pilot. I freaking love Atticus so much, man.
No.
Outside?
Well,
Outside?
maybe.
Come on.
Well,
Wanna go outside right now?
No.
You wanna do it? You wanna go outside?
Yes, I want to go outside.
And to end us off, one of the most interesting pilots here is one of the most changes. OK KO. The show had a long way to become a real show. So long that it was, at a point, a show Cian actually cared about, as it even got a game. The pilot itself, well, plot-wise, pretty par for the course. Lord Boxbench sends robots to the bodega. KO will stop him. KO is the newest employee of the bodega. And he bought Taylor Rad Enid. Changes, well, most obviously, the title. Lakewood Plaza Turbo. Honestly, a much better title than OKKO. much more distinct. The art style is very clearly much rougher than the final show, looking much more sketchy and brighter than the final piece. More notably, KO and Carol are much lighter skin color. KO is also Rad's height rather than being around half his size. Some other character changes. Rad is mostly the same in personality and design, but occasionally has a small mustache and sometimes doesn't. Ian's beta design is clearly much more influenced by Chun-Li, but notably, instead of her original role as a much more lazy or reluctant worker of the shop, basically just Wendy from Gravity Falls, she's much more responsible here. Also, everyone has sausages glued to their faces instead of noses. There's a very wide variety of background characters shown, and a lot of them are kept for the final show. While it could be written off as a pilot unconnected to the show, what makes it so cool is the later episode actually has a character watch and react to the pilot as if it was an old acting project of theirs, which is really funny. Still, this is a fun pilot, and it's fun to see how dramatically these changed to get to the final show. Sadly, the pilot is much better than the final one, because the final show does not reference Sonic Shoe.
Go, KO! Go out and defend our plaza to the extreme!
And I'll end it there. There's definitely some I missed that I could discuss, some that are lost and will hopefully be found, and some pilots to shows that were never made. And who knows, maybe all of those will get their own videos. For now, it's fun to look back at how a show starts before it truly got its footing. It's like the Big Bang, but instead it gave us SpongeBob. So the normal Big Bang.
I'm SpongeBob.
Ben, your mind has been transported back in time and to Mars.
I need water. I desperately need water. This is during the Family Guy segment. I just finished talking about Family Guy. I need water. I need water now. But my voice is killing me. Jesus, water freaking crap. There's no water! There's no water here! No! I'm gonna glug freaking Canada Dry. Is this even expired? Has it expired yet? I don't know. I need to glug Canada Dry. That was a horrible idea. Oh, Rocco, I need you to whack my back. Why do I sound like Mrs. Big Head? I'm gonna instead drink Appy Juice. I'm drinking an entire Appy Juice. I should probably close the door. Entire Appy Juice will be drunk on screen, live in front of you all. Because I'm freaking dying. Why am I talking if I'm dying? Me. Okay. That's the actual video.